everyone. Welcome to the Next Wave podcast. I'm Matt Wolf. I'm here with Nathan Lands, and today we've got an exciting episode for you, live from HubSpot Inbound 2024. So a little bit of a different special episode. We don't normally do these in front of an audience, but we're going to talk about the AI-powered growth that we've used for our own businesses in both Twitter, our podcast, our newsletter, the various platforms that we have. We're going to share some tools. We're going to share some workflows. Should be a fun session. It's just going to be me and Nathan sort of having a off-the-cuff conversation. But yeah, let's go ahead and start by talking a little bit about YouTube growth. So as Nathan just mentioned, I do have a YouTube channel. Right now I'm hovering around 640,000 subscribers. The channel is really focused on AI, but surprise, surprise, I actually used AI quite a bit to actually grow the YouTube channel. So some of the ways that I've leveraged AI to grow my YouTube channel, number one is probably the most obvious way that I've used AI to grow my YouTube channel is the thumbnails. So all of my thumbnails are created with AI right now, and I'll try to quickly walk through the workflow of how I make some of those thumbnails. And
they're awesome, by the way. That's like the first way I noticed you, was like these crazy AI art thumbnails.
So the way I've actually done that is I use a tool called Stable Diffusion for the AI art. And Stable Diffusion has all sorts of like plugins and add-ons that you can use with it. And one of the add-ons is a tool called Dream Booth. And Dream Booth actually lets you upload about 20 images of your face. It learns your face. And then you can go into Stable Diffusion and say, generate an image of Matt Wolf in a field of strawberries. And it will generate that image, right? And it'll generate an AI version of my face. I'd say about 75% of the time they look horrible. 25% of the time they actually look decent. And that's kind of how I generate my thumbnails. One of the ways that I like to do it now to get a little bit more dialed in with those thumbnails is I like to go and use either a tool like Midjourney or Leonardo. They make a little bit higher quality images, in my opinion.
Right.
So I'll generate an image of like guy standing in a field of strawberries, to go back to that same example. Okay. And I'll get that image generated, and then I'll pull it into Stable Diffusion, and I'll sort of mask out my face and say, replace this face with my face. So I get the main image generated in a different AI image generator.
That's awesome.
And then mask out the face.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because in Midjourney, obviously, you can't put your face in there. So that's how you do it. Awesome.
Yeah. So that's been one of the like biggest sort of like growth hacks I've had for my YouTube channel is I'd like to make these bright thumbnails. And a lot of times the prompts are like super bright, super colorful, man standing in a field of strawberries, vibrant colors, brilliant greens, things like that. I try to make it as colorful as possible. I want these thumbnails to really, really pop when people see them on YouTube. I want it to stand out among all the rest of them. And Midjourney and Leonardo are the two best at that, in my opinion. Yeah. And so I use that sort of face swap technique. Now, the other ways that I use AI is I really, really love using Claude from Anthropic for helping with like title generation. And one of the things I like to do is I'll create my whole video. So I'll make a video that's explaining how to create a chatbot trained on your own information, something like that, right? I'll create a tutorial on how to do that.
Right.
When I'm done making that tutorial, I'll pull it into a tool like Descript and get the whole transcription of that video. I'll take that entire transcription, plug it into Claude, and then say, help me come up with 10 titles that will grab a lot of attention based on this transcript.
That works pretty well?
It works pretty well. It'll get me close, right? Okay. Sometimes I'll change the words a little bit, like the titles will be, I don't know if I'd actually say that in real life, but for the most part, it gets me close. It gets me a lot of ideas to use for those titles. Right. And I'll use that as like this sort of rough draft, the beginning of that title ideation phase. And so that's worked really, really well as well. Another thing you can do with Claude is they have this tool called Projects, and Projects lets you upload additional information into it that it can use as context. Yeah. And so what I'll do is I'll go find other YouTube titles that I really like, and I'll make a text file, and I will list out 30 different titles that I came across, and I'm like, this title works really well. This one got me to click. This is a really good title. I pull all those titles into a text document and then upload those into a Claude project, and then say, use these as examples of titles that have worked well, and then Claude will sort of do a decent job of finding titles that are sort of similar to the ones that I gave it as example.
I've done the same kind of thing with the Twitter. So you showed examples of things you like. Do you show examples of things you don't like, or have you
just things I like? I mean, you could do that as well. You could just like in the same text file. Here's the titles that I like. Here's the titles that I really don't like. Use this information when creating new titles.
Yeah,
and that kind of stuff works really, really well. I also use Claude for scripting. One of the ways that I use Claude for scripting that has been really effective is almost the same idea as the title generation idea, where I will go and find maybe 10 to 15 different YouTube videos that I really like the flow of the video. They have like a beginning, a middle, and end, and it's just a perfect flow. I watched the video, it grabbed my attention the whole video. I didn't want to click away. So what I'll do is on YouTube, you can grab the transcripts from those videos. Right. I'll grab the transcripts from those like 15 different videos, pull each one individually into a Claude project, and then tell it, this is the style of script I want to make for my video. Make a video in the similar style. And then I'll give it the topic. I'll say, I want to talk about the new OpenAI 01 model.
Yeah.
Write me a script about OpenAI 01 model. Here's some information about it. Write it in the style of the scripts that I uploaded.
Do you modify it, or do you just do what it says?
No, I modify them heavily. But it gives me that flow, right? What I'm really looking for is the flow. I don't need a word for word script. I don't actually read a script when I make my videos. It's very off the cuff. But
I like the bullet points of like, here's like
I like
kind
the
of stuff
flow.
I'm talking about.
Like there's always like a hook in the beginning to grab the attention.
Yeah.
And then once you grab the attention, then you want to move on to, showing what the end result is going to be. And then you want to move on to getting into the tutorial. And then you want to move into, and it gives you that flow of where you want the video to start and where you want it to end, and the little bits in the middle, and it sort of helps me find that arc of the video. And then I'll use that as the sort of rough draft outline for my video, because I will upload information about the topic I want the video to be about, and it will sort of give me the beats to follow based on the scripts.
Yeah, I wonder how many YouTubers know about all of these strategies, because it seems like your team is way leaner. Like for the size of your channel, like I know other YouTubers who have like way larger teams for like the same quality output that you're doing.
I have one other person in my process who was making thumbnails for me for a little while. So it is very sort of teachable, duplicatable. Anybody can follow that flow. Yeah, the shorts is the same flow, right? So I will go and grab the transcripts of shorts. Shorts is a brand new thing I just started doing. I've done like 10 total shorts on my YouTube channel.
I think you said with shorts, you're allowing it, you're like kind of following what it says a little bit more.
Yeah, following the script a little bit more on the shorts. Yeah. And the reason I do that for shorts is because you've got to hit 59 seconds or less. Yeah. Right? And you got to hit it like right on that time.
Right.
And so if I try to ad-lib too much, I tend to ramble. I mean, I've already been talking about my YouTube stuff for 10 minutes here.
You keep going on. Right?
Yeah, I'll keep going. So I kind of need that script to keep that 59 seconds or less on my YouTube shorts.
Right.
But if you go and find a short on YouTube that you really like, if you go and you see the youtube.com/shorts/ a long string of letters and numbers, right? If you replace the word shorts with video, it'll actually take you to the video landing page instead of the short landing page, and you can grab the transcript from that page. So for shorts, I'll do that. I'll go and pull in transcripts for inspiration so that I know I'm hitting all the sort of beats that I want to hit throughout my video.
Right. Have you tried any of the faceless kind of YouTube stuff, or do you think
I haven't yet, but I do want to explore it. Yeah. I was watching the HeyGen session yesterday. Yeah. And that really made me want to play around with some of that. See if I want to test it. Put a video up on my channel where it's I want to do the HeyGen where it's my face. It sounds like my voice, and then put some like B-roll over it, and then see if anybody notices. I don't think I'll do that for like all of my videos, but I kind of want to test it. Just see like, is anybody going to call me out and tell if it's an AI generated version?
Yeah, I think, I'm considering starting the AI video agency with Lore.com, and the two guys I'm working with it on, they showed me a workflow yesterday using Make.com, where we could like script out an entire YouTube video and then use AI video to generate all of the stuff. And it's amazing. I mean, like you probably could like grow a pretty large channel.
Oh yeah,
like,
once you get into some of those Make.com workflows, it gets really, really fun. But yeah, those are some of my main YouTube strategies that I've used AI to grow on YouTube. Yeah. But let's talk a little bit about Twitter, because you've grown a pretty big following on Twitter as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so probably, I was like a Twitter lurker for like 5 or 6 years. Like I would use Twitter, like mostly just like read Twitter, now X, whatever. but I never really tweeted often. And then I still had like 5,000 followers just because I did startups in Silicon Valley and raised VC funding and stuff. So I had like 5,000 to start with. And then I started getting really excited about AI, obviously, like writing my newsletter. And I was like, well, how do I grow the newsletter?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I guess you use Twitter and like share whatever you're learning about. And so I started doing that. And then quickly I learned that I could use AI in so many different ways to grow the Twitter. And a lot of it's similar to what you said. Like I would teach ChatGPT, like what are the kind of Twitter threads that work? Like what are the kinds that I like and what are the kinds that I don't like? And it would save me like 2 or 3 hours like doing threads. And I'm not as active right now. I've been more focusing on getting our podcast going for the last 5 months. But when I was like doing it every day, like I could consistently get at least 300,000 views on tweets every single day.
Look, in the next 30 seconds, I'm about to let you in on something that will completely change your marketing strategy with AI. Back when we met with Greg Eisenberg, he summed up the widespread fascination with AI perfectly. Everyone from your barber to Jeff Bezos is interested in AI. So if you want to drop some AI knowledge during your next haircut, HubSpot has a new trend report that is packed with original research and data on all the AI trends to watch for this year. This PDF is the ultimate resource for you. You'll learn the top 5 AI marketing tools everyone's talking about, the tools that are driving significant return on investment, and it answers the question on everyone's mind. Is AI helping or hurting your career trajectory? You can steal the research findings from this report to revolutionize your business strategy and transform the way you work. So if you want it, grab your free copy from the link in the description below. Now back to the show.
So how are you using AI to do that? Like what was the workflow?
Well, so what I would do, I use this thing that's not an AI tool. It's called Tweet Hunter. It's like a Chrome extension. So I would use that. And then what Tweet Hunter would do is you can look at like who are the top people in your category, right? So it's like, okay, AI or creators or whatever. You can look up those people and then you can see what are their top tweets ever, right? So I would do that and I would make a list. Okay, here's the people I really want to not copy, but I like their style, you know. And so I would look at and I'd get their top 1 or 2 tweets and I would put that into ChatGPT and say, here's the kind of tweets I like.
Right.
I'd use AI as an editor, not as like the writer, because like the writer, I found like there's only a few niche use cases where you can actually use it to like write the content.
Right.
And I think it works a little bit better on LinkedIn. I'm not sure why, maybe like the quality of the content's a little bit different on LinkedIn. On Twitter, I found like it writing the content for me didn't do that well. So I would write the content myself and then use it as an editor. And I felt like it saved me probably like 2 hours or so. Cause like editing a Twitter thread to make it like really go viral can take hours. Like I'd be sitting in a coffee shop in Kyoto, like just sitting there, like, you know, like, well, okay, let me look at it again. Let me look at the hook again. And then having the AI where I could just like show it all that and get feedback saved me so much time. And actually I found like when I was doing it myself, I was getting a lot less views. And as soon as I started using AI as like an editor, like all of a sudden like, oh, every time I tweet, it goes viral. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Now you were telling me a story about Naval Ravikant, right?
Yeah, a lot of things came from me growing on Twitter. I mean, like in a way, like, cause like very quickly I went from like 5,000 followers to like 50,000, I think in like 3 months.
Right.
I've like slowed down since then. I started focusing on the podcast and other things. But, you know, a lot of stuff came from that. Like I went on TV 2 or 3 times and talked about AI. Elon Musk started responding to me. Right. You know, Jeff Bezos followed both of us.
Right.
And that's kind of how we connected, is because Jeff Bezos saw one of my tweets and followed both of us. Which is cool.
Well, I think it was a tweet that you put that was like, here's the people to follow in AI, and you listed a bunch of people, and my name was one of them.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos just followed that whole list.
The idea for that thread came from AI. So I was like, here's the kind of stuff that I see other people doing in different categories.
Right.
How can I do that in the AI category?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here's the top people to follow, or here, you know, and those kind of, you know, threads don't get as many views, but they would like, a lot of people I would mention, they would all follow me.
Yeah.
Right. So, but in terms of the Naval, that was the one use case where I found with the Twitter that you could actually use AI to actually create the content. So to give people context, so Naval Ravikant, the founder of AngelList, in Silicon Valley, he's one of the most famous people in Silicon Valley. He did a great podcast episode with Joe Rogan. It's one of my favorite podcast episodes ever because it talks all about like everything from business to like life, right? How to live a good life. And so I literally just like fed the transcript of that episode into ChatGPT and said, and it already knew like what kind of threads I like and all that. So I had that context. And I just fed it the transcript and I said, make me a thread put that into Twitter, and got like maybe like 500,000 views, and Naval retweeted it.
Right.
I didn't write any of it at all. I literally just like fed it to ChatGPT. The entire thing.
Do you remember what sort of prompt you gave to get that kind of output for it?
It was literally just like me giving it the context of here's the threads I like and the ones I don't like.
Okay.
Right? Because like, I want to have like a good hook and all that, but I don't want to be like too cheesy. I don't want to go too like clickbaity.
Yeah.
There's like a fine line there, right? Like
a
little bit, but not too much, right? And it was literally just providing the context, kind of like the same thing you do with YouTube, right? Like giving it like, here's the kind of titles I like, or, the flows I like.
Right.
Same kind of thing works for Twitter, probably works better for LinkedIn, honestly.
Yeah. And I mean, something like that works if you're trying to grow a podcast or grow a YouTube channel or even grow a newsletter, right? You can go and plug the content from the YouTube video or the transcript from the podcast or the entire newsletter that you just wrote up, plug into ChatGPT and say, hey, summarize this into something that would work well on it as a Twitter thread. And at the end, add your little call to action. And
I think there's a lot of ways we probably could be using AI more, right? Like we both have AI newsletters. He's got Future Tools, I've got lore.com. And I used to do more like pre-call to actions and post-call to actions to promote my newsletters. Like, okay,
can you define that? What's a like pre-call to action?
A pre-call to action is like, okay, my newsletter is coming out tomorrow. Here's what you might learn in this newsletter issue, right?
Okay.
And then the post is yesterday, so-and-so, 20,000 people got this newsletter, the lore newsletter. Here's what I learned. Here's what you missed out on, basically.
Got it.
And subscribe. And so those typically don't get tons of views. They may get like 10,000 views versus like one of my other tweets getting like over 100,000 views. But they convert really well. And so, I think we probably should be automating that, right? Like we probably should just like be like feeding our newsletter into like a system and then having it like just generate those tweets and like schedule them through the Twitter API or something.
Yeah. I like that idea. I think when it comes to Twitter personally, I still really like it to be me, right? Like it to be my voice. But if we started like a next wave podcast Twitter, I could see like trying to automate that with, here's what we talked about in this episode. Every episode gets fed in. Like you can use something like make.com, right? And I'm just sort of spitballing ideas here. You could use something like make.com where whenever you make a new podcast episode, it watches that RSS feed, pulls it into like a Descript or some sort of transcription tool, right?
Or we can make a newsletter.
Transcribes it and then automatically uses the Claude or GPT API to then turn it into a Twitter thread and then automatically post on a Twitter account. That actually is something we probably should do with the next wave.
Yeah, we can make a newsletter, right? We could like what are like the key takeaways of every issue, and then you could also automate the promotion of it as well. Yeah. We should do that. Maybe we should after this.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's talk a little bit more about some of these newsletter strategies to like grow a newsletter.
Yeah.
Right. We've both grown fairly substantial sized newsletters in the AI space.
Yeah.
You've got lore.com. I've got the Future Tools newsletter.
Yeah.
So we've used obviously AI to help grow those and manage them and maintain them. One of the ways I've been experimenting with growing it is actually using AI to create this sort of a lead magnet to bring somebody onto the list in the first place. And with these AI tools, it's so easy to create really high value lead magnets right now, right? Like I can go and take some of my YouTube tutorials that teach really valuable concepts that people really want to learn, have those transcribed, pull those transcriptions into something like Claude or ChatGPT and say, this is a transcription, make it read more like an ebook or make it read more like a blog post or, that sort of thing so that it feels more readable than just reading a transcription, right? And now you've got a PDF that you can offer as an opt-in to get people to join your newsletter. Another thing that's gotten really, really easy now is even easier now with the OpenAI O1 platform is going and creating a simple software app, right? Like, so some of the things that I've seen like in the real estate industry, people making like fairly simple mortgage calculators and things like that. Make really simple tools where you ask for the email in order to use the tool and you put a little checkbox below it saying, would you also like to sign up to my newsletter when you use this tool?
Yeah, that reminds me of the stuff that Greg Eisenberg was talking about when he came on our show, like creating widgets for like SEO and stuff, right? And like used to widgets, you had to like hire a team and go build that. And like now, especially like with O1 that just came out, like OpenAI recently released O1. It's not clear if it's a new model or what it is, but it's way better at coding and like creating apps than before. And so I'm pretty sure most of these widgets now, like a single creator can create like 10 useful widgets and like get tons of SEO traffic there's so many things like it's hard to figure out like what to do because like there's so many opportunities now.
You can really dial it in towards whatever niche you're operating in, right?
Yeah.
So you can create something like really, really customized just for the people that you're speaking to. And there's another tool that's been fairly popular lately called Cursor, which is like a fork of Visual Studio Code.
Yeah.
But it's got like AI scripting directly built in.
I use Cursor. It's amazing. Like I'm like an amateur coder. Like I've been in Silicon Valley for a long time, so I used to code more. And now I don't code a lot, but now it's like easier to go back to coding because like it can look at your entire code base and like suggest changes or like, oh, here's a bug in the code, and like it knows the entire code base. It's
right. Yeah, and another way that I use AI for my newsletter is I let it be my proofreader for me. It's essentially become like my editor, right? I actually have a team that helps me with the newsletter as well now, but I still write a bunch of it. My team still writes a bunch of it, but the final pass, we let AI look at it, and we usually plug it into, I was using ChatGPT in the beginning, now I'm using Claude a little bit more, but I'll plug in the whole newsletter and I'll say, proofread this for grammar, spelling, and readability. And it will look through it and it'll tell me, all the grammar and spelling looks pretty good, but you might want to, move this sentence down a little bit, move this sentence up a little bit. It just makes it easier to follow what you're trying to say, right? And it's really good at sort of rearranging some, little nuanced stuff in the email to make it more readable for the newsletter subscribers.
Yeah, I found the same thing. Like I tried to have AI write part of my newsletter, and like it's really clear when like you're using the AI to actually write the thing, right? Like I tried that one issue and like people like responded back like what is this?
Yeah.
Like okay, that's obviously not Nathan. Like okay, and so I use Claude to like edit my newsletter.
Yeah, for sure. And then we also talked a little bit about the Twitter threads, right? Like I'm assuming is Twitter the way that you've grown your list the most? Is it mostly because of the
it's mostly been Twitter. Like used to every time I do a viral tweet, you get like 100 to 200 subscribers every single time.
Yeah.
Right. Of course, some people unfollow. You might lose 10 or 20 people, but like, and it's pretty consistent.
Yeah. I mean, my newsletter's mostly grown off the back of the Future Tools website, a little bit from the YouTube channel. I found that a lot of people, like I always have a call to action at the end of my YouTube video to go subscribe to the Future Tools newsletter. I find that most of the traffic that goes to the newsletter does not actually come from YouTube. It mostly comes from the Future Tools website, which is a tool that I built to help sort of organize. And
it's hard to convert like different mediums, right? From like video to text and vice versa.
Yeah, that's really the way that I've grown my newsletter. I'm at about 160,000 subscribers on mine now, but it's mostly come from basically building a tool over at Future Tools, a tool to help you find tools.
Yeah. You were talking about widgets earlier. So have you actually created the widgets yet, or is that like an idea you're thinking about using AI for, or you already have done it?
So I've messed around, created a few widgets, but I actually haven't used them as an opt-in yet. So it's something that I want to play around with more. I mean, if you look at Future Tools as a tool that helps you find tools, that's the biggest growth for my newsletter, right? Yeah. But I mess with VS Code a lot. I've been using Claude mostly for coding. I'm going to probably start using OpenAI 01 for coding a little bit. Yeah. And I've made little like widgets and stuff that I use internally for myself, but I haven't actually given many away yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think you should, because like you said that Future Tools. So Matt has Future Tools. It's basically the top AI tools directory. And my understanding is like when people search for AI tools, you're often like the top 2 Google result most of the time, right?
Yeah. With Future Tools, it's really well SEO'd. And all of the descriptions of every single tool on Future Tools was generated with AI. It's great. So basically, the way that works is Perplexity goes and looks at the tool, gives me a description of the tool. All of this is through a make.com automation, right? So
we're not sponsored by make.com.
We're not. But basically, Perplexity will go and look at the tool, give me a description of the tool, send that description over to Claude. Claude will write a single paragraph of it and then feed it into Webflow, which is what the whole database is built on top of. So that workflow is all AI. Every single description on that entire site is AI. And if anybody says that, you can't rank for AI generated content, I'm proof that that's false, because it's usually the tool that's number 1 and then the Future Tools listing for that tool that's number 2 for a lot of AI tools.
Yeah, I know. I mean, so we had Greg Eisenberg on like several times, and I know he has like an AI SEO agency, and he said it's like killing it. Like they're doing it really well, and I think they're mainly they'll do stuff where they have like AI generate like thousands of pages of content, and they rank, and then what they do is then they'll because obviously the quality will be a little bit lower with AI content,
right?
And so what they'll do is they'll generate like thousands of pages of content, and they'll see what ranks. And once they find out what's ranking, then they'll go in with humans and edit the ones that are ranking to make them really, really good.
Smart.
Right. Yeah. And so that's, if you have like one key takeaway, that's one. Probably everyone who's doing SEO should be probably doing that right now.
Yeah. One thing I want to share before we wrap up, because we've got a couple minutes left here, is if you don't have a newsletter, it's probably easier than ever to have a newsletter, because you can use AI to sort of help you out, at the very least, outline the newsletter if you still want to write it yourself, right? Yeah. So if you're in like a specific niche, like we're both making newsletters in the AI niche, I can go and find, the 7 biggest news stories in the AI world for the week, take all 7 of those stories, plug them into something like Claude or ChatGPT, and then say, either write up or outline a newsletter for me with all of these news pieces worked into it. And you can even feed it some of your past content so that it'll try to write sort of in your style. And now you've got a quick and easy newsletter. At the very least, you've got an outline or a rough draft that you can go back in and sort of add your own voice to. But it makes it really, really easy to consistently put out a new newsletter. Just pick your niche, make sure you're keeping an eye on the news in that niche, and then feed that in once a week or twice a week or whatever the cadence of your newsletter is.
Yeah, and I think it works for like curation-focused newsletters. I do wonder though, like in the next few years, if that's going to die off, because the AI tools are going to get so good that you'll just be able to like have your own custom newsletter of like curated information, and then
it's newsletter. Well, I think.
yeah. So like that's what I'm trying to do, like more editorial too, like actually writing what I think about stuff. Where this is just like, here it is,
Yeah. No, I definitely think that's where it's going to go. Unfortunately, that's probably going to sort of devalue newsletters, but we still have a window of opportunity right now.
We still have a podcast.
So I feel like people should always capture that window of opportunity while you've got it. And
it's helped us. So we started our podcast with HubSpot maybe 5 months ago. We got, 3-something thousand subscribers in the first month. And now
the episode was it first episode?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then now we're like 10.3, in 5 months. And a lot of that's from our newsletters. So newsletters work.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about all of the time we have. This has been a fun, interesting episode. Fun story. This is actually the first time Nathan and I have met live in person. We've known each other for a couple of years now. We've been doing this podcast for 6 months.
Tall, but
but this is actually our first time meeting in person. He lives in Japan. I live in San Diego. Yeah. And we've finally converged here at HubSpot to record a few of these episodes live. So we really appreciate everybody hanging out with us and enjoying the podcast. If you want to hear more content like what we did here, our podcast is on YouTube. It's called The Next Wave Podcast, and you can find the audio version wherever you subscribe to podcasts. So thanks again for hanging out with us and tuning into this episode.
Thank you all.